A lot of the fans that I've spoken with in person and on social media just have raved about the views and kind of the vibe out there. When you were playing in the planning stage of this amphitheater, like how does it compare from what you had on paper to what you experienced like in real life this past season?
I think what stands out the most to me is how intimate it feels. I think we were able to use the existing sort of topography to our advantage. I think the other thing that stands out to me is um, I think we were very successful at sort of complementing what was already existing around us and added to that aesthetic. But I think what from a fan perspective, I think what stands out to me the most is just there's no bad seat in the building.
I really echo Matt's sentiments on the experience of the amphitheater versus what I saw coming into it. I think at that point, the stage had just been built and the lawn was getting put down, but none of the seats or anything were in yet. And Matt's exactly right. The experience you have is way more intimate than you ever think it's going to be. You can say, okay, this is a smaller amphitheater and try to compare it to a bigger one. But when you're there, it's just, you get to see these Dave Matthews and these like world-class artists in such an intimate setting. You can literally see the whites of their eyes if you're sitting in a seat. It's wild to me.
A lot of the people I spoke with praise the sound quality once you're inside the amphitheater. Can you talk a little bit about what goes into making sure that everything's dialed in an outdoor space like that?
I mean, listen, the band has their own sound engineers, and most of the PA that comes to the amphitheater is brought by each band. We support the stage sound with a lawn delay system that allows us to sort of uh, control the throw of the sound to try to keep it inside the venue. Um, but it's state of the art sound, and again, I think the setting of the venue with sort of the topography of that natural amphitheater, it just helps with the overall acoustics.
You talked about the topography of the amphitheater. I mean, obviously, one of the features that is often talked about but not so much promoted are the hills around the amphitheater and the experience that some fans have just kind of wandering through town and stumbling upon a concert. Obviously, this isn't a big secret to you guys. You knew that this was going to happen when you were planning it. Uh, how closely are you tracking what's happening outside of the amphitheater during show days?
The people on the outside of the venue that are watching from kind of that Browns Island Way, Second Street area, we anticipated that was going to happen, but we didn't know just how much people came and enjoyed it, and they were with their families and they brought their pets out. And I will say I was really impressed by how well they just kind of self-manage themselves. And, we keep a traffic control team out there just to make sure that if is any vehicles like coming through that we're watching for pedestrians and folks sitting around. But people seem to really enjoy it and they always clean up after themselves. So I can't really say much about it. We always see them enjoying it safely. So that's all you can ask for.
I'll admit to being out there for the Neil Young concert myself, which it sounded amazing, and I got to take my son and just have him experience a couple of Neil Young songs. Just who knows when we'll get a chance to see Neil Young again. So, it was nice for us for sure. I did see some trees being planted in the perimeter there, and I'm wondering for season two, is there anything directly or indirectly you guys are going to do to address fans outside the venue?
No, I mean, I think Scott, you nailed it on the first question. We expected this coming, and the building's situated in a very unique setting, right? We're right in the downtown area, and like Rebecca said, I mean the fans were fantastic, and yeah, I don't see us changing anything in that for that piece in 2026.
Speaking of the fans, everyone's so excited in general about the venue because we're able to attract large name acts back to Richmond. Any news we can break here? But I know that the contracts have to be signed and there's a lot of secrecy around that. But if there's anything we can hint towards that we can look forward to besides Sting and Mount Joy and these huge acts.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I first off, Richmond is in a great position, right? It's centrally located. It routes fantastically with Washington, D.C., the 757 area down in Hampton Roads or Raleigh. So we expect to have a very diverse lineup in 2026. I think the success that we experienced in 2025 has piqued everybody's interest about what Richmond is able to bring, and we think the market can continue to sport 35 to 40 shows a year. And I think as we continue to program the calendar for the 2026 season, fans will have a lot to look forward to.
So overall, how many fans would you say walked through the turnstiles this past season?
We had about 200,000 fans come through over that small season, that small window between June and October, which is really incredible.
Everything exceeded our expectations, Scott. The response to the venue has been amazing, and has certainly exceeded our expectations. And I think it has set us up for success for future years. Again, we are now on the map as a must play market. And we're excited about the opportunities that are ahead of us.
I know a lot of fans are curious about what changes they might expect from year one to year two and the adjustments that you guys are going to make. Some of the points that I wanted to make sure we touched on that were raised pretty consistently with me as I asked people kind of what they would like to see for year two. So if we don't mind, I'm just going to go down this list and you guys can comment as you see fit. The first one that I heard a lot about was the lawn capacity. Some of the shows felt like they were oversold and people felt like there wasn't like the comfort level back on the lawn that they expected. First of all, I'm sure you guys have heard all these things before over the last few months. So I guess what is your reaction to that? And is there going to be any adjustments made for the next concert season?
First off, Scott, we survey every guest that comes through the building the night of the show, right? So we're taking that feedback and constantly evaluating the operation. To your point about the lawn capacity, that's something we are evaluating. We've already taken some steps to reduce the capacity in that area to make it more comfortable for our guests. And I think the steps we'll take there will significantly improve that experience.
So when you say that, you said reducing the capacity. What is the capacity, or was it this past concert season? Or what was it supposed to be?
I don't have that specific number off the top of my head. I can tell you that around 4,000-ish. So we're evaluating again, we're adjusting the capacity down on a go forward basis for all 2026 shows again to improve that overall fan experience on the lawn.
Yeah, and Scott, just to piggyback off what Matt's saying, that's the most interesting part about having opened this venue in an inaugural season. I've never done that before. I've done plenty of renovations in venues, but never something from the ground up. So you have all the measurements that the architects will tell you and the design team, and everything's been measured out, right? But you have an idea of how it's going to go, and I did too. And then as soon as we opened those doors, I was like, all right, let's throw that away and start all over. And every show was a little bit different because every crowd was a little different. Some people didn't want to sit on the lawn. They wanted to stand up and it was more of a party. And then some people, wanted to be in their own private picnic, which I totally understand. So it was really dependent on the artist. And when we talk about what the capacities of different areas should be, it's kind of taking in all those factors into account. What will the crowds look like? How did we perform in this past season? I know I did a lot of data mining and looking through just our scan rates and trying to figure out like what shows were issues and why were they issues. So really just getting into the why of it.
Can you share any of that information you've gleaned?
Yeah, I mean, it's really what I expected. So on a show that was leaning towards like a younger, more maybe a party crowd, going out with their friends for the night, we'll say like on a show like Parker McCollum or Whiskey Myers, no one wanted to sit. So we have lawn chairs available to rent and everyone wanted to stand. But if you look to something that's more of a James Taylor or Neil Young, that's more of like a listening experience, Alison Krauss, people want to sit. So you have to find a happy medium in there of doing that math of how do I create enough space so some people can sit and some people can stand, and ultimately we're trying to make it the most comfortable experience. I mean, when you come to the show, you want to enjoy it.
One of the things that actually did kind of surprise me was the bathroom situation. And obviously, you guys knew when you designed it what the bathrooms were going to be like. A lot of people that I was heard from were basically questioning if there was going to be any improvements to that situation in the next season.
Stay tuned.
All right. Big breaking news. Bathroom breaking
More
news.
to come there, Scott. We again, we hear you. We heard the guests, and we are in our sort of our off-season capital planning process right now, Scott, and bathrooms are top of mind for us.
All right. I think we got the headline for the story now. We can just end it. We can end the interview right now.
And it's a great point too. And as Matt's saying, we'd hear it in the surveys that we'd get after the shows, and guests would, come up and ask questions during the event themselves. And I think I love that the most about Richmonders and concert attendees is they want to help you along the way. They're like, hey, here's what I think you should do. So I have some that I might tap into to see if they want to work at the venue too.
Along the same lines, we heard from some folks about the ADA access, just in general, getting into the venue, and once you're in the venue, like kind of the way it's set up for them. Is that something you guys were hearing as well? And if so, any adjustments you can share for the next concert season?
Yeah, I don't know that we got a ton of feedback on that piece, Scott. What I'll say to you is we have an accessibility coordinator that acts as sort of a concierge for our guests with accessible needs. And I think, the feedback that we've got from her and from some guests that she was able to support during their visit was very positive. So I don't know if you have some specifics that you heard that we can comment on, but I think, listen, we always evaluate the experience for all of our guests, and that's again on a show by show basis. So
There was situations that were described as inconvenient for some folks that have mobility issues, and then the misuse of ADA seating is another thing that I heard a little bit about. So,
Yeah.
God, I can speak to one of the issues I heard the most, and honestly, it was one of those things that you look at as soon as you open and you're like, wow, I didn't consider that. The venue is incredibly accessible. So from we have every type of walkway to get to places, and everything is as it should be so that folks can get to where they need to go with, that they have mobility issues. One thing that I didn't consider in my plans necessarily was we had the ADA entrances and everything was set up, and we had the ADA coordinator, as Matt was speaking to, but Richmond's topography lends itself to a whole separate challenge. So no matter what side of the venue you're coming in on, you're on a hill. And I think that's challenging. It really got us thinking of some things that maybe we can look into going into next season. And so those wheels are already turning there, but we're always trying to do our best to make it, the most easy for people to come and enjoy the concert for sure.
one of the fun things that we talk about in the newsroom a lot is the concession and drink prices. And I realize that's kind of like just an industry thing, concerts and sporting events. That's just the way it is. And Richmond is not, prices are not any higher in Richmond than they are anywhere else. But for folks, like I said, that haven't been to concerts in a long time, I think some folks experience sticker shock. So instead of asking you about that, I'm just wanted to ask if you had any advice for folks. Is there a value meal inside the venue that you would suggest people do for next concert season?
Yeah, we do carry drinks at all different price points. So some fans have already been really tapped in. I'm telling you, go on Reddit and you can see them on there. They're helping other fans like, hey, go to this bar and this has this at this bar. We do beer prices from $5 and up. So there really is, depending on your budget, you can get something that's in line. The other part is the math of it, right? So the drinks that are in here aren't necessarily 12-ounce drinks. So it's doing a little bit of math. And
Right.
I think one of the cool things that we do have is, and I hope to continue to expand this, but we had Hardywood the Sheep Mullet, and we had Star Hill, the Ramble On from them. And then on a few shows, Neil Young, like you mentioned, we did some other local RVA lager. And I think that's the coolest part, is being able to get all these like great Richmond breweries in here. So I'm looking forward to being able to add more of that regularly.
Working for the local news, the two stories that I think we heard about the most leading up to the opening was the parking and the neighborhood sound. So we'll do those one at a time. For the shows that I went to, I had zero problem parking in the city and walking, 5 to 10 minutes to get to the venue. But I'm fortunate that I'm able to do that. Like, I'm physically able to do that. It's not a problem for me. I know how to parallel park. It's not a problem. Other people less fortunate because perhaps they don't know how to parallel park in the city, or perhaps they don't feel comfortable taking a ride share or what have you. I know there's a big parking deck in the works, kind of adjacent to the venue. I'm not sure when that's going to be done. So what would you say for folks that said, I couldn't go to a concert this year at all because the parking scared me away?
To your experience, Scott, there's over 7,000 spaces within about a 10 to 15-minute walk from the venue. And remember, our capacity is 7,500. And as you know, that area has supported events that are way north of 7,500, like, whether it's Dominion River Rock or the Richmond Folk Festival. Those attract, 20 and 30 and 50,000 people to that area. So I hope folks will give us a chance, a shot. I think once they try it, they'll find out that it's not as difficult as maybe the narrative has made it out to be. I think what we're looking at going forward is trying to partner with some of those lots so that guests can potentially pre-purchase the lot, so it's a reserved space. They know where they're going, and maybe that makes it a little more comfortable for them. But again, there's over 7,000 spots within a 10 to 15-minute walk. And even, I think for the local Richmond folks that have been there for a while, we found folks parking on the south side of the river as well and walking across the Teapot Bridge.
Come on. No, you didn't.
Gave away the secret.
That didn't happen. Nope. Nope. All right.
Yeah, exactly right. It's actually echoes something you said earlier, Scott. You've gone to concerts, I'm guessing, in other cities, maybe in DC, maybe you've gone somewhere else, and it's not that easy to find a spot to park in major metro areas like that. So I think we're pretty lucky here in Richmond to be able to find a place that's a quick 10 to 15-minute walk. And so many of those spots are free, especially when you're parallel parking, if you have that skill like you do.
Right.
Yeah.
The other sort of issue was the neighborhood noise. Did you guys hear from them, and did they seem satisfied with what?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So, first off, we want to be a good neighbor to our neighbors, right? And so we manage the sound real time during all shows. We have a person on staff that goes and takes readings, dB readings, in and around the venue, as well as our surrounding neighborhoods, to make sure that we're staying within the City of Richmond noise ordinance. We work with RPD to make sure that is occurring on every show. So again, I think sometimes there's atmospheric conditions that allow sound to travel further than on a normal day, and we have to manage to those. And so again, that's why it's imperative for us to be in and out of the venue and taking those readings real time and providing the feedback to the band to make adjustments where necessary.
I imagine your job no day is really the same. And I bet you there's a lot of nerves for every show. You don't really know what's going to happen with the band showing up or the fans or weather, all these things happening. But was there a moment during the first season where you had a chance to like exhale during a show and just kind of be like, we did it, or we're onto something here? And if there was, can you share that moment with me?
Yeah, for me, Scott, I grew up in Richmond, and I'm a huge Dave Matthews Band fan. So I've been watching that band since they played the Flood Zone back when I was in high school. I think the moment he hit the stage for the first night and the energy that was in that venue was just absolutely incredible. Um, and I love the moments, and I get them very often at that venue specifically. Is you get the goosebumps and the hair stands on end on your forearms, and it's like, wow, how fortunate are we to be able to be a small part of this experience. So I think the first night of Dave Matthews Band, that first note played, and the crowd just absolutely erupted. I think that's what it was for me.
Dave Matthews was one of those shows where you were like, wow, we did it. We somehow fit every single piece of gear from all of those trucks on the stage, 2 nights of it. I mean, I remember going to see Dave Matthews when I was in high school, and one of our sister venues, now Jiffy Lube Live, that was Nissan Pavilion at the time. And so it was definitely a full circle moment for me just to be like, wow, I've got Dave here. I don't think I really exhaled until that last show ended. However, because all of it, every show it was the first time, it was the first October show we were doing. It was the first August show. It was the first weather show, and definitely not the last. It was, everything was a bunch of firsts this season. So, I exhaled after.
Spoken like a true boss. So now that we've gotten past all the firsts, except for the first Fish show, but once we get past all the firsts, what are you guys most excited about season 2?
That's a great question. Listen, I think the most, look, when you open a building, and you start with doing shows immediately, you don't really have time to sit back and think about the business and what we can do to change and improve. So I think just having the off season, a full off season in front of the second season, taking what we learned in year 1, applying those learnings to year 2 to make improvements, to show the fans that we're listening. I think that's what I'm most excited about.
Mine's real. I have 2 really favorites looking into the 2026 season. One is bringing my team back. This was such a unique experience for me. Just everyone was brand new of working together. None of us had ever worked together ever before in any capacity. Much of our staff had never even worked in venues before. And to bring everyone together and us all learn together and make improvements and make suggestions was so much fun. So I think being able to go into the 2026 season with that solid team that's lived and breathed it for a season, and recruit some new talent to help facilitate our shows. Really looking forward to that. The other part is just our involvement with the community. We were able to do some little things here and there this season, whether it was backstage artist experiences. We brought in some local vendors like Ruby Scoops ice cream. We brought that in for the artist, and we would get items from like Mongrel or Beasties, local Richmond things that we would send the artist off with. So I think having this off season to be able to kind of dive a little bit deeper and say, hey, what else can I do inside the venue on the fan side? What else can I do on the artist side that just really makes an impact on their experience here?
I want to close with this. If there's one thing you could tell the community, one piece of information to tell the fans who've given feedback, positive and negative, to you guys over the course of the first season, what would you want them to hear from you?
Well, I would tell them that keep it coming. First of all, I think that's what makes us all better, is hearing from everyone else's experience. Everyone's experience is going to be different. And it's important that we hear those perspectives, but also we hear you, and just know that we're taking all of those into account. They're being read, we're evaluating them. And there's not just one person giving feedback. I mean, it's all 7,000 people every single night that we hear from. So it's, I appreciate it. I do.
Scott, listen, I wanted to just touch on something, I think it's worth mentioning is just the experience that the artist had in Richmond. We got great feedback from the artist community. Widespread playing 2 nights. They stayed the night here. Goose, obviously Dave has experience in Richmond, but Just their experience, whether it was down at the river or going to coffee shops in the city or having dinner or whatever. Um, I don't know that we realized how great of a city that Richmond is, and the bands have absolutely loved playing there. And I think that will just continue to drive our success in the future is just um, how cool of a town Richmond is, and the experience that the artists have when they play the venue.
That reminds me of a question, actually. Sorry to keep you guys on the
Okay.
Zoom for an extra few minutes, but is there a specific story or anecdote you could share from an artist that, uh, speaking to that, like a very Richmond moment that someone had that you guys could share?
I know for one, the Rob Thomas, when he came to play, he actually came a day earlier, before he was supposed to play because he wanted to explore Richmond. He's like, this is cool. Like, and he when he got on stage the next night, he talked about the things that he did. And I think that is so cool because you don't get that at most places. Like most venues aren't as unique as this. You don't have the history of Tredegar Ironworks around you and the river and the skyline and all the art and the culture. That was one of my favorites. The other one, which was truly a Richmond moment, and to keep the animal news cycle in good form. There was a night, I think there might have been two, that a possum came in and came into our building and said hi. And that is the ultimate Richmond experience, as everyone knows. Um,
Opossum. That's this is a little harder question. Can you share with me your first concert experience and your most memorable or a memorable concert experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. First concert experience was the New York City Fresh Fest at the Richmond Coliseum featuring Houdini, Fat Boys, and Eric B. and Rakim. Uh, my most memorable concert, probably we did United We Stand at RFK Stadium after the 9/11 incident. It was Al Green, Michael Jackson, Aerosmith, Pink, Backstreet Boys. Just the whole vibe of the concert was, and being able to be a part of that experience was pretty special.
Yeah, that sounds pretty incredible. How about you, Rebecca?
my first concert was George Strait with opener Clay Walker. That was at the former Patriot Center at George Mason University. So I think it's what Eagle Bank Arena now. My most memorable, similar to Matt, mine was just after 9/11, and it was U2 at Baltimore Arena, which is now CMG Bank. By far, still the most memorable concert I've ever seen.